English 24 101. I'm Jade Castell. I use she and her pronouns, and I'm Purdue's business librarian. I'm excited to go through this LibGuide with you. It has information on company research, industry research, and how to find articles in newspapers or TV reports about your company. I'm also available to meet with you to help you with your research, and I'll show you how to get in touch with me on the library's LibGuide. So let's jump in. We're going to start with looking at the LibGuide in general, and then I'll touch on Marketline and Mergent for company database research, and then I'll also hit on IBIS World for your industry research. Here's our LibGuide for this course. You can see that I've put a bunch of links for researching your job that you might like to have. I'd like to highlight 3 of them. Indeed, this has both local and national jobs. It also has internships, and there are some reviews of the companies on there or that particular job at that company. At PFW's Handshake, this is for jobs on campus here at Purdue. And then also there's the Indiana Intern for local Indiana internships. Then as you're going through, I've put some information on thoughts if this is your first time going for your kind of first job and you're looking at, okay, what job might I like? What might be a good fit for me? What employer might be a good fit for me? I've put in my thoughts on those here. Then when you're looking at your employer or your company, you might want to look up reviews of past people who have worked at that company. So Glassdoor is a good one for that. It'll also list possible salaries that you might make if you work in that particular job and you have that amount of experience, those years of experience in that job. It's those are individual people who have put those reviews in there. So you have to keep that in mind when you're weighing it against some, the other facts that you learn about a company. Same thing with Yelp. Either of those could be like a disgruntled worker or someone who had a bad experience at that company. At the same time, if you have a lot of really good reviews or a lot of really poor reviews, it might be hinting at something with that company. So you can take all that information as you're forming your opinion of where you're researching. Then the Better Business Bureau and like health inspectors, those are good ones that are kind of even more reputable if you find information about your company in either of those places. Then if where you want to work is maybe not in Fort Wayne, you might want to check what is the cost of living, say, in another city in Indiana or maybe Chicago, something like that. You could compare those cost of living in places like Best Places or NerdWallet. Then I put here too of like what to consider in a job posting, like what are the benefits that you want? Do you have enough qualifications for that job? If you don't, can you get an internship in that job? Can you get a mentorship? What is the culture like to work there? Are they LGBTQ friendly? Do they hire across, do they hire diversity? All those different things that you're looking for in a job. Those are all things to consider. And you could put that into your research too, that you looked into these things and this is what you found out. Then when we're talking about resumes and cover letters, the Career Development Center is an excellent place to start because they can help you with your cover letter and resume and show you examples of what that looks like in your field, because it might look like your resume and cover letter might be slightly different than someone else in another field. So you want to make sure that your resume and cover letter are tailored correctly for the job and the field that you're working in. And then also practice interviewing and do a mock interview. So they have interview assistants there too. You might want to create a LinkedIn account for you to help find employers and for employers to help find you. You might also be in a position where you have, you might want to create like your own website, for example, like if you're a photographer, a musician, and you want to put some of your work up online, that could be very helpful. Just remember that anything that you put up online, as far as like social media, that's something that your potential employer could see. So make sure that all of your social media is something that you don't mind that they would be coming across. Then you'll need to ask for 3 professional references, people to they'll either take a phone call or email or write a letter of recommendation for you. Some excellent suggestions are like past supervisors, places where you've worked, or your professors. So I've written down some thoughts on how to ask your references and how to keep in contact with your references. So that makes it a little bit less of an anxiety to ask someone to be a reference for you. All right, so now as you're researching your company and your employer, I'd like to highlight 3 things here on the left-hand side. So we've got news and current events. So if you're looking for like news, TV reports on your company, research a company for our databases that have company research, and then research an industry. Industry is great because it kind of shows what is the projected outlook for your company in that industry. And it's also helpful if your company is private for kind of filling out that information that might be kind of hidden from private companies. So we have public companies and we have private companies. Public needs to share all of their information, like their financials. Private doesn't have to. So depending on the company that you're researching, it might be a little bit more difficult to find out that information. But as far as the culture, I think you'll be able to find out a bit with the news and some of the other information, you'll be able to have a good portfolio. All right, let's take a look at the news and current events first. Now, with any of these, feel free to make a research appointment, and I'm happy to help you research your company or to like talk about what kind of jobs you might like, any of that kind of like brainstorming. I'm happy to help with any of that. So I just want to point out 3 of the resources here. We have Nexus Uni. Then we also have Business Source Complete, which might have some information on your company. And then you can also try the National Newspaper Core. So for example, they have like the New York Times and the Washington Post. Now, we don't have time to go in and actually search in any of these today, but feel free to make an appointment with me, which you can do by going to Get Help and Meet with a Librarian. And then you can see that you can do in-person or virtual, and then you select, and then you'll see my name here, and then you can see what times I'm available. All right, let's go back. Okay, so this was news. Now let's go to research a company, and I'm going to highlight 2 databases here, Marketline and Mergent. I like Marketline because it gives a SWOT analysis that's in a nice graphic that would be great to use in a report. And it has really good narratives to talk about your company. And the reason I like to highlight Mergent is because if you have a private company and you're having trouble finding information on it, if you want to dig a little deeper into the financials or something like that for your report, or if you're a business major and this is something that you'll need down the line, Mergent is great for finding private information. So let's start with Marketline. And as I open it up, I'm going to go to companies here on the top. And then I'm going to search for Kroger, just as something that we know that's local. And you can see I've got the company right here in my list. It's the first one, clicking on it. I like the overview and the profile for some of the narratives that you might like to read and then synthesize for your report. And then down here on the bottom left is a SWOT analysis. You can see what I mean when this pops up. It's got the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in a nice graphic here. And then it's got a narrative for each of those. So you can learn a lot about the company and its projections from reading this report. Okay, now let's go back to companies and say what happens when we would search for Do It Best Center. So I'm going to save time and not search for it. Do It Best Corp, that hardware store that is headquartered here in Fort Wayne, is not in Marketline. So what I would do then, and for any company, private or public, is I'm going to go to their website. But remember, if you just do It Best, it's going to show you their website to purchase things. And they usually have 2 websites. They have a corporate website and then they have their functioning website. So if I want the corporate one, which in this case is I do, then I'm going to put in corporate or maybe headquarters and then try and pull up that website. So here's the Do It Best Corp website. The About section is going to be very helpful, and the News section is going to be very helpful here too. Just remember with the news, it's going to be all positive news because it's their website. So you're going to want to cross-reference that with research that you do outside of the news that you find here. Then if I go to About, I've got information here on maybe their community involvement is important for you, maybe what they do with their foundation. You can research their history, and then you can see locations here too. So maybe you want to start local, but then you see, oh, I have an opportunity to move somewhere else within the same company or to move up within the company. That could be really helpful for your report. Then at the bottom here, I like to point this out to business students. They have their annual reports here, which is kind of unusual because once again, they're a private company and they don't have to have that information out for us. But if they're a public company, they do, and that would have also came up in the Marketline report. Another thing you could do is you could do, for example, you could search a competitor of Do It Best and look up the competitor SWOT analysis and see if there's things that you think might be the same for the SWOT analysis for for Do It Best Center. So for example, if I look at threats here, there's intense competition. Well, where could that be coming from? Well, we could think, oh yeah, Lowe's might have competition, and Home Depot and Walmart, they all kind of sell things that also fall into the hardware category. So then you could talk about those, how your company, maybe it's Do It, like I said, Do It Best, might be dealing with some of the same things that one of their competitors, Ace, might have for the SWOT. Now let's look at Mergent, because Mergent was the other database that I said might have some private company info. So I pulled up Mergent, then I'm going to go down here to D&B private company database. So I've got Dun and Bradstreet. This is Dun and Bradstreet. And then I'm going to put in my Do It Best Corp here. All right. You might have signed me out here. I might have been in it too long. I've already downloaded their company reports. I'm just going to click on that to show it to you. So here's the Do It Best Corp from Mergent, and it would have pulled it up through that way, but I think I've just signed out because I've been on this too long. But what's nice here is it gives the industry codes that it thinks that this business, this company falls within. And then I can go into the industry and I can search for a SWOT analysis in the industry. So especially for private companies, this extra info can be helpful in me making my entire whole portfolio for my company. Now let's go to IBIS World. So IBIS World was on this left-hand side for research and industry. It's going to be right in there for IBIS World. And then when you search in IBIS World, you don't search for Do It Best Center or Ace Hardware or Kroger. You would search for the industry. So I'd search for hardware stores in the US, like the report I pulled up here, or grocery stores in the US. So you can kind of see how that search is different. Now, if I go to the About section in hardware stores, IBIS World's great because it has a COVID report right at the beginning. So it kind of gives you, you're seeing what's happening to this industry right now, which could be really great for your report. Industry at a glance is also really nice because it has graphics and it has the SWOT analysis. So you can see the strengths, the weaknesses, and the opportunities over here on the right-hand side, and then the threats. It also kind of gives you a big snapshot of the industry as a whole. Then on the left-hand side, the other thing, all these areas could be helpful for your report. The other one that might be really helpful is the major companies. Because let's say you don't know competitors of your company, or you don't know who else is kind of in this field, it'll show, oh, Ace Hardware, here we go. Oh, there's the one I like. Dude, there's the one I want to work for. Do It Best. Okay, fine. True Value, great. And then you can see these other ones here, and you can read a little bit about them too. And then maybe through this, you'll find out, oh, I wouldn't mind working for this one. Oh, they're in a location that I really like. Oh, it seems like you might find another company that you would also consider. So as we've gone through all this, you can see that your LibGuide link is down here at the bottom. So I can just click on that to get back to your LibGuide. If you have any questions on any of this, or if you'd like to just talk through it, or you'd like a second opinion on your report or the citations for your report, any of that, I'm happy to help you. So once again, just go to Get Help and then meet with the librarian. You can talk to me there. You can also chat us at any time. I'm often on the chat. You can even just ask for Jade there, or say, is Jade around? You can send me an email. There's lots of ways to get into contact with me. Then the other thing that I wanted to highlight that Purdue is doing this semester, and they also did it last semester, is they have a Pursuing Racial Justice Together series. And if you click on events here, you can get a link to go for free to any of these events. They're webinars, like a Zoom meeting. And I went to many of the sessions last semester, and they were absolutely wonderful. So I'd like to plug that if you're interested. And then I'll take us back to the LibGuide here. And then once again, after you review all these resources, you read these extra parts here, feel free to get in touch with me if you have any other questions. I'm happy to help.